Hello, friends, and welcome to the first edition of Fireside Chats with Dr. Step. So glad that you chose to join us today in light of the terrible weather that we've had in Boiling Springs. I could lament the fact that yet another class was canceled. But am I a glass half full kind of person? No, I'm not. I'm a glass. Whoops, I think I said that wrong. I am a glass half full kind of person, not a glass half empty kind of person. Oh boy, that's what I get for not having a script. Hey, it's going to be okay. So we had another mammoth weather event here in Boiling Springs. I figured, forget the syllabus. Forget trying to fix it one more time. What I'm going to do is just invite you into my home for a brief little chat. I will supplement this brief little chat with a PowerPoint that'll be coming to you as well, based on information that we should have had in class today, but we didn't. And since it's cold outside, I figured we'll just cuddle up here next to the gas logs and everything will be fine. As you have opportunity to look at the PowerPoint for today, you will notice that we're jumping into the Middle Ages, trying to cover a few significant details from the time period. We're actually picking up with where class left off last time. We were talking about monasticism and Benedict in particular. And so I've mentioned on the PowerPoint a couple of things related to Benedict's rule and the importance of that, these vows of poverty, chastity, and obedience that become a hallmark of Western monasticism. So Benedict is very influential in that, providing space to work and pray and worship, read, translate scriptures, all those sorts of things are going on in the context of Western monasticism. And then the PowerPoint will transition us more into the direction unique material for the day, which overlaps some with the reading for the day related to some of the developments, specifically in the Western Church, related to the early Middle Ages. So you'll see that we're talking about the emergence of papal power in the West, particularly with Gregory I, or Gregory the Great, as he is sometimes called. Significant pope, late 500s, early 600s. He's a political leader. He's a spiritual leader. He's doing mission work. He's very involved in lots of ways. And so there's several things that I've mentioned there about him that I would like for you to think about and to make sure that you have a grasp on. Sort of coming out of the discussion of Gregory, I think I mentioned a little bit about missionary activity during this time period. Not only is Gregory sending out missionaries, most notably among them a guy by the name of Augustine. He's not Augustine of Hippo, but he's Augustine or Augustine of Canterbury. Ends up being how we distinguish him historically. So he ends up sort of being the first major Roman Catholic missionary to go to England. And so he's working with the tribes there. Even though a type of Christianity, Celtic Christianity, had already been there, because it didn't quite fit the Roman model, the Catholics wanted to go in and reconvert the Celts, which essentially is what they did. And so the authority of the Western Church and of the Pope and all those sorts of things comes into play during that time period. But there are some other missionaries from the time period as well that I mentioned. Maybe most notably among them is a guy by the name of Boniface, or Boniface, I guess, depending on what its mom thought of him. Boniface is a missionary to a lot of the Germanic tribes of the time period. And most notably, he's known for sort of these power encounters that he has with the Germanic tribes. He's very famous for going into places and basically challenging the authority of the pagan gods that were worshipped in those places. And so on one sort of famous encounter, Boniface goes into this tribe and they have this sacred tree that they worship because it's connected with their god. And Boniface is like, your God's not a real God, and I'm going to prove it, and I'm going to chop down this tree. and he takes out his axe and chops down the tree, and everybody thought he was going to die and be killed, struck down dead by this god. And he lives to tell about it, and so it sort of becomes, see, my God really is greater, and everybody ends up converting. Is that the best model of conversion? Arguably not, but it's one of the things that worked during that time period. And then I guess the other main thing that the PowerPoint will walk you through is the rise of the Frankish kingdom, the Franks, beginning with the conversion of one of their early kings. His name is King Clovis. He converts to Christianity before a battle, sort of like Constantine did, and prays that if God would give him victory in the battle, then he would convert, and he wins, and so he converts. And he has lots of people in his kingdom baptized as a result. And so the Frankish kingdom begins to grow and spread after that time period. And most significant, I think, of these Frankish kings is the King Charlemagne, or Charles the Great, who comes along much later, late 700s, early 800s is when Charlemagne is on the throne. And Charlemagne is a very significant leader in the sort of the heart of the Middle Ages, I guess. Charlemagne is not only a very capable military leader, political leader, he also is a strong supporter of the church, strong supporter of missionary efforts, a strong supporter of education. He wants clergy to be able to read. Surprise. He thinks that there ought to be schools in conjunction with every church. And so education, even though he himself is not educated, he puts a big emphasis on education that has a strong influence on the church, I think, during his time period. And then I think I wrap up the PowerPoint with a note that in the year 800, the Pope of the time, we're not concerned about his name, he actually crowns Charlemagne as a new emperor in the West. It's no longer sort of the Roman Empire, the ancient Roman Empire, but this becomes what history calls the Holy Roman Empire. So this idea that now we are a Christian nation and we need a Christian emperor to rule over this Christian kingdom, and Charlemagne becomes the first. But it shows still that, at least in the West, the Pope has the authority to crown the emperor. And even though, as your textbook points out, Charlemagne wasn't necessarily a big fan of the arrangement, he accepts the arrangement. And so we see these close connections continuing to exist between political leaders in the West and the Pope, and yet the Church still sees that it has authority over the empires and the emperors in the western part of the kingdom. Things are very different in the East, and we'll talk about them in a later time. But for now, these Western developments are I think, pretty significant. And there's some other things that I talk about in the PowerPoints, and so I want you to be very familiar with them. And we'll certainly take any questions that you have on Wednesday related to the information that you've received or heard, perhaps in this strange venue. But yeah, I hope your weather day has been okay. This fire is now starting to actually burn the back of my neck. So I think it's time to move, and instead of moving awkwardly with computer in hand, I'm just going to shut her down. And hope you all have a good evening. Look forward to seeing you on Wednesday. Take care.